Welcome to the Pivot Playbook. I'm your host, Kelly Riley. If you're itching for change and seeking inspiration, you're in the right place. We're sharing incredible stories of people who've reinvented their lives and the lessons they've learned along the way. Get ready to be inspired and feel empowered to write your own success story. So buckle up, your pivot starts now. Let's get started. Welcome to the Pivot Playbook. Today's guest is Brett Hooper, and he's got to be one of the coolest dudes that I know. We met way back when I started barbering in 2008 at a local barbershop called Lester's Barbershop, and he and his family have been clients now for years. One of the things that I could always bank on when Brett came in is that he was always doing something new and always doing something super cool. Brett has made a career out of pivoting, and he is here today to share his journey with us. So welcome, Brett. Thank you so much for joining us. My first question, as always, is going to be just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first, for thank you for having me on. I don't always get these chances to talk about myself because that's not something that I'm known to do, is talk about myself. But who am I? I am an industrial designer. I've been doing it for 26 years. And it's something that I will do forever and ever and ever. But really, I'm a designer first and foremost, kind of creative, I guess you could say. And it's been a fun ride, and I expect another probably 20 years doing this still. Luckily, I can get old and feeble and still design things. I just can't be as physical as I was as a young spry when I first started out at age 23 or 24. So, but I've done a lot. I have designed a lot, and I continue to do that and enjoy every second of it.
I can't even wait to get into some of these kind of cool ass projects that you've done. So I guess how did you get into industrial design in the first place?
Well, I could draw at a young age. I could just draw better than most people in my class, and I would sit at the dining room table and draw and draw and draw. It's the only kind of talent I think I sort of have naturally, and I just took it upon myself to get better at it. I went to art camps as a kid. I then went to Canterbury Art High School for a couple of years until I just didn't feel welcome there. And I just took it upon myself to keep drawing and whatever. And what I really want to do was I want to become an animator at Sheridan. And I applied 2 years in a row and couldn't get in. I wasn't good enough to do that. And I went to Algonquin for a design foundation year. And I was introduced to the job title of industrial designer. And what I saw was these professors drawing drills and cars and stuff, and it would get made. And so I was like, well, that's kind of like animation. I can draw, and it becomes true to life. So I went to Humber College in Toronto and took industrial design as like a 3-year course. And I have not been unemployed since I graduated of June of 1999.
Wow. So take me through, like we've already covered the industrial design, but you did list out for me a bunch of the careers that you've had. So share with the audience, like what are all of the things that you've done since graduating in 99?
Since 99. Well, even before that, I was designing T-shirts and skateboard stickers and graphics for a skateboard shop that I used to work at and skateboard for. So I was always into like making kind of counterculture art. But once I got out of school, I was like, oh my God, I have no more homework. So I'd leave work and I have nothing to do. So I started to freelance as a graphic designer right off the bat. And that turned into package design as freelance. So I would have all these clients in Europe and the United States, and I was doing package design and graphic design across the city. And it would always be kind of like retail stores and stuff like that. A lot of identity work. And, just doing that at night and making extra money and then continuing. And then I left industrial design after 8 years of working on kind of mechanical projects. And then I became a creative director for a gourmet food company, mostly doing package design, exhibit design, consulting with the company about sort of taking the company into a design kind of direction. And I did that for probably 8 years until I was approached to teach industrial design at Carleton University. So I then became what the kids would call me was professor, but I don't have a PhD. I don't know many industrial designers with a PhD in design. So I did that for almost 10 years. And then I got kind of headhunted by accident from LinkedIn. Someone asking me, do you want to design cookies or do you want to design cars? And I went, well, all right, I'm going to design cars instead. And I pivoted where I even told the person hiring me, is like, I am not qualified. I've not done like three-dimensional SolidWorks design work in 12 years. I'm not qualified. I shouldn't be working here. He's like, can you learn? And I said, yes, I can. And he went, perfect, you're hired. And it was just because of your more experience with design, the kind of faster and better you are at it than, say, someone junior to you. So my knowledge of the world and business and marketing and all this stuff applied to this. And I have not looked back at all of any of the old jobs. This is by far the most difficult and exhilarating and challenging and fun job I've had. And I'm, not even close to finishing this. So.
Okay, so just as a quick side note, could you ever, or when you think about back to your young self, could you ever picture yourself as being Professor Hooper?
No, no, but it taught me a lot. It was, you know how scared I was to become a professor? Like, I remember coming up in class and lecturing for the first time with my notes and my hands were shaking. So you could see this fluttering piece of paper. But by the end of it, it was like, I can lecture in front of hundreds of people without not even care in the world. I miss making young people just better, both in life and then in their design projects. So I do mentor a lot of kids still to this day. I get phone calls and text messages of like, hey, can we meet up? I want to talk about my career. And they've been out of school for a couple of years. So that I embrace. I miss that. I really miss teaching kids and punishing them and making them do all the same crazy homework that I would get. But I do miss that, but I had to leave. It was just too much. It was too much work. Both, like, I had to stop freelancing. I had to shut down my brain after a while. So it was pretty difficult. So I just wanted my free time back. But if they've asked me back, like I think I taught a package design course last fall and it was great. It was fun. So
I love that. So, before you had mentioned that you've left quite a few of your long-term job and you've left them quite abruptly, right? So, walk me through the first time that you decided you were done, right? Was there something specific that had happened, or was it more of a gut feeling? Like, what was the thing that made you decide, okay, I'm done?
well, I forgot to mention the other jobs that I've had. Is I owned a clothing company, a golf clothing company called Triple Bogey.
Mm-hmm.
And I went out to one of my best friends who ended up living in California. His business partner was Travis Barker, who is now famous for marrying a Kardashian. So I went out to California to work with those guys for about a week. And I was like, oh, this is what it's like to keep working in a creative environment where you could do whatever you want. No one could, no rules whatsoever, because it was kind of lifestyle brand. And my company that I worked for had just been purchased by a large Swiss company, and it started to get corporate, and I couldn't do the fun stuff like come in late at night and make my own bike or weld stuff or use the CNC machine. I wasn't allowed to do that anymore. So I remember coming back from California, and within 3 days, like showing up going like, this is not fun. I broke up with my girlfriend and I quit my job on a Friday, and I told them I'm never coming back.
Gee, okay, wow.
Without, I had no job lined up. I had nothing lined up. I was like, I'm just going to take this giant risk. And I remember being on a golf course on the Monday, and they're like, you have to come back and do your 2 weeks. I went, no, I don't. I don't like working there anymore. So that's it. And then I ended up making a couple phone calls and took a giant pay cut to become the creative director of that company and I just became an in-house designer. And like, that was fantastic. Like it was fun. Even with the less pay and less benefits, I was like, I get to do what I want. So
So was that like, okay, so you just said that had this adventure in California,
Mhm.
got to explore all this creativity. You come back to your regular job and you're like, what the hell is this? I don't like it. And on a whim, you decided, okay, done, that's it. Was there any part of you that was scared in that moment making that decision, about not having anything lined up, or
Uh,
was it
yeah,
whatever?
I was probably scared. I don't think I can remember that emotion at the time, but I just thought it was the right thing to do. Like it was like this isn't fun anymore, and this is my life and my career, and these people are controlling it and not
Mm,
me. So I was like, I need to be in control of this, even if it will devastate me.
mm.
Um, but at that time, what did I do? I think I just moved in with a bunch of my housemate kind of thing, and my rent was like $400, so I didn't have to worry about it. But I was still freelancing, so I just still had this income coming in as well.
Yeah.
But that's like the longest. When I got hired, the woman that hired me said, "I'll give you 5 weeks off before you start, so you can just do nothing." And I was like,
Mm.
"This is great." So,
So,
I think between me quitting and me getting this new job must have been like 3 days.
wow, 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 wow.
So maybe that there was that feeling for 3 days,
Mhm.
but I just knew that, hey, I'll be able to, pay my $400 rent.
Yeah.
So
So there was a little bit of a safety net there, you know, in some
somewhat,
sense.
it's there's always people that would mentor me,
Mhm,
and kind of say like, you're worth more than what you're doing now. Like I'd
mhm,
always get that kind of like someone would stick a little bug in my head of like, you can do better.
mhm.
So, and that's always recurring over my career is I can do better. So
So that kind of brings me into my next question because I was going to ask you, like, when you look back, what do you think has driven you, or what was the driving force behind a lot of your changes, right? So for you, I guess with what you just said, it's like there's always been that bug in the ear. There's something more, there's something better.
yes,
Yeah.
there's always something. Well, I find it's like the places that I work after a while change, or unless I change, and they seem to stagnate me where I become bored
Mm,
with, and I know I'm definitely a creative person.
mhm,
And when people stop listening to my ideas, then I stop listening to theirs, and I'm just done. And that's kind of what's happened is if if someone wants to micromanage me and don't take my advice, my
mhm,
consulting,
mhm,
like even to this day, at like doing this for 26 years, there's still clients that don't listen to me. And I almost like, I'll take your money. And if you don't want to listen to me, you'll see what happens.
mhm,
It's like, I find my profession is disrespected in that sense.
mhm,
Like most people feel like they're underpaid, overworked kind of stuff. But I like, I'm always there to work for my client and make them more money than me getting paid.
mhm.
But they seem to just go, it's my idea. And as soon as you stop listening to me, I kind of stop listening back. So, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
go, all right, I'm bored.
So making one, career change is scary enough. And, as we discussed, you've done it a few times. Was there any one that felt more intimidating than the rest, or was a little scarier than the rest?
Yeah. About 6 years ago, 6 years ago, I quit. I gave him I gave him 3 weeks notice. Um, but there was a tension in the air, um, where they were calling lawyers.
Wow.
And I was like, well, that alone, that company had changed quite a bit. That
Mhm,
I just didn't feel like it was a fit anymore, and it
mhm,
felt more corporate and money, and they refused to give me more money,
mhm,
even though I'd add value to the company.
mhm,
And so I was going to go with someone that appreciated my skill set.
mhm,
And um, yeah, that was. I took a long walk that morning when I made that decision, and I was scared out of my tree to tell them because I've known them for 20 years,
mhm.
and I've never seen them again since I left.
Wow.
They've never talking to them, nothing. So it was pretty ugly on the way out.
Mhm,
So, um, but I will, like I said, I will never look back on that decision. I everybody that I leave, they're doing better, so
mhm,
that's a good thing. Like
mhm,
they didn't fall apart.
mhm,
But I'm not either. So
Yeah.
it's mutual. I don't owe anybody anything. They don't owe me anything. And that's how I feel.
Um, my next question is going to be like a lot of people plan every single detail before they jump ship, right? But Brett being Brett, you're just like, Kate, make this
Yeah, I'm
move.
like super unemotional as a personality, but like when my emotions do show up, they're like just like I'm left-handed, I'm super creative, I guess, and I just go off the charts like an artsy person of no, I'm just not doing it, you know.
Yeah.
So those are the only times I get emotional like that is a separation of something.
So, and you might have answered this a little bit in the last question, but were you ever uncertain, right? And when you were uncertain, like how did you deal with that?
Uncertain in what?
Of like making the change, like you said, with the last one, that one from 6 years ago, that was when you had to go out and walk and, kind of process it.
Mhm.
So, like, how did you, I guess, deal with that situation, knowing that you're going to make this big change, right? And like unemotional Brett had
I
some
I
feelings
just
about
I
himself.
just dealt with it.
Yeah.
Like it like I really didn't know what I was getting into. Like
Hmm.
I really like the job that I do now is extremely difficult and it's tests me of being you kind of have to be over intelligence compared to all my previous work
Hmm.
that I have to work harder. Like
Hmm.
when I see junior designers coming in and I train that they're smarter and better than me, it's like it's intimidating.
Hmm.
But then again, I was like, well, yeah, but I know a lot more than them, and it yeah, I kind of floundered for first couple of months.
Hmm.
But I knew I made the right decision because what I work on is pretty cool, and my accolades are like I work on stuff that's never been done before.
Hmm.
So I'd rather have that on my gravestone than sit in a chair and not be happy. Like I'd rather flounder and like work on stuff and try hard and work more hours than have nothing on my grave. So that's you know
Did you, and again, I feel like you're kind of answering some of my questions, some of my next questions, but it's perfect. So, of all of them, and maybe again, it was this last one, right? Is there any that you had any doubts or you had any regrets, about leaving? Like, yeah, was there any of them that you've kind of looked back and like, well, shit, you know what I mean? You feel a little differently about it now than you did in the moment.
I'd love to stay as a professor as it's like as a tactical kind of thing,
Hmm.
and we still use it at the company because both me and the president were both professors.
Hmm.
When you tell someone you're a professor, you get looked at a lot differently,
Hmm.
and they think you're smart or whatever. You've made it to this highest level, but like here's one thing that I do know about being a professor at Carleton is I didn't have to go to school to teach,
Hmm. Hmm.
whereas teachers go to school for a long time to become a teacher, but I didn't have to do any of that. They just threw me into the fire,
Hmm.
and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. But I eventually I figured it out. I really liked kind of like saying that I'm a professor, so I missed that and all the free stuff that you get.
Oh, goodness.
Like free software and you get
Yeah.
cheaper things and stuff like that. But the other one was shutting down Triple Bogey.
Hmm.
Um, once my son was born,
Hmm.
I did not have the time to do that, and that was fun because I was in charge of everything, and no one told me I can't say, do, or anything. You know, you can't do that. But I just didn't have the time, and we let that trademark run out.
Hmm.
And then eventually, the guys that we used to fight with online bought my trademark up and started a beer company. So you can
Hmm.
go buy their beer, right, at
Hmm.
LCBO. So I
Interesting.
missed that. I missed that because that was cool. That was like rock and roll. Triple Bogey was the kind of rock and roll stuff of like we had a lifestyle to show off, right? So
I think that was about the time, like Triple Bogey and definitely the Gourmet Food Company. That was about the time where we met, right? And
yes.
even that was
Well,
like,
we met before that because one is like Lester. I'd been going to Lester for a long time
mhm,
because Lester would cut my grandfather's hair,
mhm,
and then I went through all these people through Lester, and then you were this one that showed up, that was we got along.
Mhm.
And then I followed you everywhere you went after that. I had a loyalty. But yeah, that's when like really like Triple Bogey shut down in 2012. It
Mhm.
started in 2006. So we would travel around, go to Toronto, go to these parties, get invited. I had pictures of George Stroumboulopoulos hanging out with us, like, where he wouldn't want us to show the public him what he was doing at these parties and stuff like that. So that's what he said. It's like it was rock and roll to us, and we were treated like almost like celebrities. I kind of missed that, but
Mhm.
I'm getting old, so.
So
But I
another,
had no regrets, like no regrets.
yeah.
So
No, and I love that, right? Because I think a lot of people who are thinking about making a pivot or making a big change in their lives, like they are so wrapped up in if they're going to regret it, if they're making the right move, the wrong move, do
mm,
I do it, do I not? And I think a lot of times, and I think, you've kind of already said this, is like you get to look back on these experiences and know that you can take something from them, right? To bring with you into all the things that you're doing now. But like,
yes,
yeah, they were fun.
oh
And
yeah, like I have no like I will always look back going I'm so glad I did that, even though
mhm,
I left in a bad way.
mhm,
I will never go like, oh, I wish I never worked there. I
mhm,
always love the fact that what I took from that position and that job
mhm,
and working with those people, like, right, it's always I find it's like I need to be able to work with people that I learn from too as well. So if I'm not learning, I'm getting bored.
mhm,
Um, that 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 always has to come forward. It's like someone's got to teach me. It's like the person I work with now. He's like, you're going to teach me stuff too, and I was like, hell yeah, I'll teach you stuff, and
mhm.
it's worked out because we're the same age. So
Do you
yeah,
think
no,
that, sorry, go ahead.
go ahead, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you think that you being such a creative, is part of the reason that you've been able to, I guess, pivot into different things, right? And maybe do it as quote unquote easily as you have.
Design is design. It's a process.
Mhm,
So like I can do any type of design fit. Like I'm trained as something that can make things physical.
mhm,
But I can take all lessons learned from any design discipline and apply it to anything. So maybe a graphic designer wouldn't be able to do what I do, but I can do what a graphic designer does, or these new things. There are people that call themselves product designers, which are just app developers, or
mhm,
people that skin apps and put buttons on a screen on your phone. Those are the product designers. That's what they're called now.
mhm,
I could easily take that job as well since it's
mhm,
digital, but
mhm,
I work in the physical world mostly. But yeah, any type of design doesn't matter. It's just a process, and one is I have aesthetic knowledge. I love art. I've always loved art. I go to the art gallery all the time. So it's just the application of knowledge, and then with this bunch of skill sets, I can pretty much do any type of design. So
mhm. You said before that so personality, charm, and character can outshine raw talent. So was there a moment in your career where you had to lean on those qualities more than anything else? And do you think it has shaped the opportunities that you've had along the way?
well, I apply that to myself because I'm probably the least talented. Like even when I was a skateboarder on a skateboard team, I was the worst person on the team. But there's something that people see in me
Mm,
that they were like, you should just be hanging around with us. And so I'll take advantage of that. I must be likable. I must be funny. I must just add to a team where I don't know what it is, right? I can't talk highly of myself. That sounds egotistical, but I must have something of charm or something like that that allows me to never get fired if I screw up. And there's going to be people way better than me all the time, but then they have like dull personalities and then you
mm,
can't work with them.
mm,
So I'm probably the guy that cracks most of the jokes at work, um, tells most stories, that kind of stuff. But I think that's been through my whole life. I think I've just winged it. I've just been lucky, you know?
I love that you say you think you winged it and you've been lucky, but you've done a lot of shit, right?
Yes.
And so I'd love for you, because I realized we didn't really share, we didn't really talk about some of the cool ass shit that you've done. And I'm going to go back to one of them when you came into the barber shop and you were, and let me just add a little pause here. Are you allowed to talk about the tank?
Some
Okay.
of it, like I can talk about some of it. But I'll add to my luck here. Do you want to know how I actually got my job where I'm working now?
Let me know.
So I was in Cape Canaveral down at my parents' condo and sitting on the beach, and I got an email from LinkedIn, and I was like, "What's this?" And it said, "Miles Hammond really likes your portfolio and is offering you blah 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 job." So it was like an AI based message.
Mhm.
And I was like, that's impossible because I don't have a portfolio online. I've taught portfolio classes, but I don't have a portfolio. And I was like, this is weird. I was like, who's this guy and what studio is this? So I had to go into my first year students and go, do you guys know what Studio 63 is? I've never heard of them. They're like, that's the coolest place you want to work. I was like, really? So it was like students asking me. So Miles screwed up. He pressed the wrong button and it sent out an email to me.
Mm. Wow.
That's how I got my job.
Wow, wow, wow. I mean,
So how does that work? Is that
that
the
was the universe aligning. It was meant to happen.
Yeah, because there my charm wouldn't have helped with AI, right?
Oh man, that's pretty cool though. So let's talk about like some of the cool projects that you have worked on, because I know you've worked on self-driving vehicles, you have worked on tanks, you've worked on so much stuff. And again, anytime that you come into the shop, I just know that there's gonna be some just a wild, crazy thing that Brett's been working on since the last time I saw him.
Yeah, like within 3 months of starting at Studio 63, I designed and built the world's first autonomous delivery vehicles. And like, so we ended up being flown down to Bentonville, Arkansas, where the headquarters of Walmart is, and we built all of Walmart's self-driving delivery vehicles
Mm.
uh, in like 110-degree weather outside. It sucked. Like, it sucked. It was great though. So I can say that this is
Mhm.
what I did. And they're still on the road. They're still driving, no accidents.
Mhm.
Um, uh, First project I started with Studio 63 and my first 3D print were sex toys. So Studio 63 is well known to do a lot of sex toys. So
That's
my
what I
boss
did
did
not
all
know.
the We Vibe stuff. So like drawers, we have drawers at work filled with sex toys. And it's just a joke now of like how many sex toys. And we've developed, like when I first started, we were developing this new technology for sex toys, which is kind of like NDA, um, but it's still kind of like under wraps. But they're just trying to sell the company. So
Mhm.
it's the owner of WeVibe sold WeVibe, and now we moved on to the next generation of sex toys that are not like what we see out there. It's all non-mechanical. It's all by liquid. So I have worked. I have. I designed speakers for this company in Colorado. Like most of the stuff that I design, I can't afford. So the set of their speakers is $30,000, and I'm quite sure Dr. Dre has a set.
Wow.
Um, I work on autonomous vehicles for defense companies. So autonomous vehicles that shoot down drones. Lots of that stuff. So a lot of tanks, a lot of armored vehicles,
Mhm.
and like just you name it. What else? A lot of automotive. So I've designed cars. I've designed trucks from the ground up. Just finishing up work for, I assume it's for Purolator or FedEx. So doing their kind of trucks. Some low speed vehicles for gated communities, a lot of side by sides, so like ATVs, four wheel vehicles.
My kids would love you.
So I sketch a lot of cars. Like I'll spend weeks sketching cars, and like sending it to the client, going like, "You like this? You like this?" So they trust me so much that I'm designing their desks for their headquarters
Mhm.
in Minnesota. So it's just design everything for this company. Their business cards, they're all their graphics, their logos. I'm designing the badge of what the car looks like, naming the car, everything. So
That's pretty cool because, like, so I remember. back in, gosh, it must have been 2011, maybe 2012, when I wanted to start my brand, right? My
Yes.
hair product brand. And so I think, yeah, Triple Bogey was still around. I think you were doing stuff with the gourmet food,
Mhm.
right? And so, like, that's such a crazy shift to go from, I'll say, designing apparel, and you said skateboards, and then the packaging and all that kind of stuff for the gourmet foods to like literal tanks and sex toys. So let me just say, you, true to Brett and Kelly like interactions, you blew my mind because I did not know about the sex toys. So that's the new crazy thing.
That's the like I only bring it up at like parties, like because then you get like I could tell people what I've designed, but like people are only like, what? You do sex toys? Like which ones? And you start explaining to them of like how it's done, like how we design them, um, the process. People are very curious because it's like I view it as a product
Yeah.
and not as a sex toy. It's like
Yeah.
this has to get made
Yeah.
somewhere. Like how do I do this?
Yeah.
And yeah, but it is a party talk kind of product because if I say like, yeah, I design cars, people kind of shrug their shoulders like big deal. Like, but the sex toy thing is kind of fun. So
But that's quite the evolution, though, to go from because a lot of from the gourmet food store, like a lot of that was the like you said, branding and packaging, right? And I
yeah.
know that when you're talking about cars, and you're talking about doing the badges and all that kind of stuff and naming the cars, that's branding, packaging, like all that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
this is a completely different world, right? And I want to say, like, if you hadn't been through all the pivots and had all the experiences that you had, there's no way that you would, or it's highly unlikely that you'd be here with all the knowledge and experience and everything that you've learned to be able to bring you to this point to create all of this stuff, right?
it it almost like I was supposed to design cars because Humber, all my professors were car designers from the
Mm-hmm.
States.
Mm-hmm.
And so we concentrated on cars,
Mm-hmm.
like, but that was like 96. And then it started getting into more product design. But I never thought, because I'm not a car person, most car designers are car people.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't, I turned into a car person maybe in the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I am, it's like, I mostly do automotive. Like that's what my title is on LinkedIn, right? Is an automotive designer. Like I'll do, but yeah, like and the interior of a car is the same as package it. I need you to like it. I need human beings to like what they're buying
Mm-hmm.
or give them a sense of like, yes, I love what I've bought. That's what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm lucky that I've always had this sense of aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's applied to everything. I was like, this looks good. Like that's what most people think designers just do is make things look good. Whereas as a 3D physical person, I have to make sure that it works well as on top of it looking really good. But, I would just jump in and put myself as like, what would I want? What would I want as a car? What would I want as a speaker? What would I want as how do I sell more of this? And it's usually aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the difference of me being a designer with the care is I care what things look like. Maybe not in my house and not everything that I do, but I care what things look like, what I work on. So
And so when you think about what you're doing now, and I guess look back at, you said you wanted to be like an animator. What
yes.
is, when you look back at that now, are you just kind of like, why was that the thing, you know?
Well, I don't know. I don't really have any other talents. Like I really don't, except for drawing. And I was like, how do I get paid with this? And my dad was like, you're not gonna get paid until you're dead. Like, and so
Oh my God.
so I could have become an artist, but I'm not super artsy. I'm a little bit more like this is the reason why I love this job is like it's blue collar almost. Like
Mm,
my hands are cut and wrecked and I like that part. I like working with my hands. I like, woodworking and that kind of stuff. And the person that I was going to take animation with, he got in and he became an animator, but then he stopped losing interest and now he's like the city's number one tattoo artist and probably makes more money as that.
interesting.
So he's done all my tattoos and stuff. But he can draw like no other person I've ever seen draw. But yeah, he left it too. So there's not that many people. Like, if you ever bumped into someone that says they're an animator, it's quite rare. It's like architects.
Yeah.
You're an architect? Really? Like it's quite rare.
So, of all the career pivots that you've done, is there one that you would say stands out as like the biggest game changer for you? Is it this
This
one?
last one,
Yeah.
this last one, is the most important and doing the most important work,
Hmm.
enough that it's changed my life,
Hmm.
both as in money sense as well, and what I work on. Because again, is when I pass away, or my son can say like, yeah, my dad did that. Like,
Hmm.
how many restaurants and buildings and stuff I branded in the city of Ottawa that are now are all out of business.
Hmm.
Like I only have two retail brands that still exist.
Hmm.
One of them is Wilfinadas on Bank Street that I can still point to. People go, oh, I know that place. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I did that logo and that signage and that kind of stuff. And then just down the street from your old place of Muckleston's in Brockwell,
Hmm.
that's the last of anything that I have as graphic design.
Right.
But I will have cars, buses, trucks, ATVs, military equipment getting blown up wherever it's going to go. Because that's all my military vehicles will eventually become as targets by the enemy.
Oh my God.
Um, I
Do you
assume
have,
some of it's
do you
gone to
do what
Ukraine.
like Jeep does? You know how Jeep apparently they have like a little they have like little Easter egg icons in the car all over the place. Have you heard that before?
Yeah.
You could find. Do you do that? Like you could
Um,
somebody's
no, but I've
on
done like
threat
where I
vehicle.
designed the car. I designed the interior of the car. This is quite rare in the automotive world. It's totally separate people that would design the interior and the exterior. I've done the interior, the exterior, and I've done the key fob.
Hmm.
So how you open and close the doors or unlock it or start the engine. I've done every detail in this vehicle. So uh, it's quite rare that I get to do all of that.
Hmm.
So did I put any Easter eggs in it? No, but I did get to choose where the
Like a
volume
little.
button goes.
That's something, I guess. That's something.
That's a very important thing. I'm big. I'm a big proponent of interior design when it comes to cars,
Yeah.
because they're getting unsafe with the
Mm.
screens. So, and
Yeah.
I'm part of that problem is like these cars that I've designed have dual screens across the whole dash, but I'm always like, you need buttons and stuff because the car that I drive, half of it doesn't work, but the buttons and all the knobs work, but the
Yeah.
screen rarely
Yeah.
works perfectly.
Oh,
So, and I see myself veer into another lane while trying to change a song, right? So,
man. Oh man. Okay, so my next question is going to be because you mentioned that you have your son, you have your partner, and they've been with you through a lot of these pivots and changes. So how's I guess Tracy been through, all of these changes? I know she's been through her own big pivot as well, right? But like how
mhm.
did that
Yeah, you should have her on. She's pivots well too. Oh yeah, you should have her on. I mentioned that. So
Tracy
uh,
doesn't, I don't know if Tracy understands how much I literally love her. I think she's one of the coolest people.
she copies you too. She like sees your stuff and is inspired by it as well, right? So um they Tracy loved what I used to do,
Hmm.
because it's right in your face. You
Hmm.
see it, right?
Hmm.
And my son could care less, right? It's just like movie stars. You're like, dad, they don't care if dad's a celebrity, and he's a nobody. He's still your dad. He's a
Yeah.
loser. He's embarrassing. So
Yeah.
but Tracy didn't understand the new job and is very uninterested in what I do.
Hmm.
So uh, all the way to the sex toys, like just absolutely uninterested. She just doesn't understand it.
Yeah.
She doesn't understand my liking of is like being underneath a car, wiring stuff,
Hmm.
getting cut, being dirty, going away to Detroit, that kind of stuff. So um, just doesn't get it.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't do it. I don't do it for my family, except for money. But
Right.
I do it for myself because I'm 100% satisfied. So
Well, and I think that's a huge part too, right? Like you really do have to do the pivots for you as much as you are doing them for your family as well, money, whatever, for
yeah,
survival. But they do have to be about you because if you're not happy, all that shit trickles back into the home, right? So,
yeah. Like I would work at Tim Hortons drive-through to support my family.
mhm,
Would I be happy? I don't know.
yeah.
Sometimes I go, I wish I had less responsibility. Like Like if I screw up, it's $100,000. Like
Jesus.
if I screw up, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I'm very like, this is when I say it's very difficult, is the responsibility of getting something made, that makes 1 million units. And they're like, we made 1 million units. Great. They don't work. Oh, so I have to be very careful, very careful. So,
Has your definition of success changed over time, or what does success look like for you now, that you've gotten as far as you have?
I don't know. I don't know what success is. All I know is could say that to students is like, there's, you could be this influencer on Instagram and you could make a lot of money, but your gravestone's empty. Like, what did you do? What did you create? And I know everything that I make can make someone else's day, someone happy. I can solve their problems in ways. So like success would have to be like these random people coming up and going, you designed that I love it so much. I love using your product. That would be success to me. Designers are nobodies, right? Like no one, like I don't even care who designed this laptop that I'm using, right? But I'm envious that they did a great job of it, except for the microphone port. But we're just hidden people, and that's okay. But to have someone say like the speakers that I designed for PS Audio, there must be 10,000 comments on it, and like all I just pick is find the worst 5. But people love them. That's all I know. And that's YouTube comments, Richard, like ruthless, right? So like there's comments that we love these are so great, these are beautiful, blah, blah, blah. And then there's the odd one going, I could have designed that in a day. And I was just replying like, I did design them in a day.
Oh my God.
Or a 6-year-old could have done better. Like that's what I see. But that's like, hey, so I have those up on posters, like these bad comments. It's just to remember I can't make everybody happy. But that's seeing those YouTube comments of people loving what they look like in their house, or knowing that famous people have these is a little bit of a success. So
yeah, I think that's super cool. And you also mentioned earlier, it's kind of like these things that you design become your legacy, right? Because you said like the logos might not exist and a lot of them don't, right? But
exactly.
you have these vehicles and all kinds of other things that are going to last longer, into eternity, basically. So that's pretty damn cool.
That's the gravestone kind of analogy is like, my gravestone will have like this, and this. So no one can take away the fact that I designed and built the world's first autonomous delivery vehicles that are in commercial use. That no one can take that away from me. Yeah. So looks good on a portfolio. Sort of makes it look like I might know what I'm doing.
Oh my God. I love how you're still like, I might have some idea of what I'm doing.
I'm not special. Like I like going like I should have a shirt that says that. I walk around and you need to respect me. It's like, nah, it's my milestone and not yours. But it was really hard, and I will never forget that, and how much alcohol we drank while we did that, like at night, because it was so hard. So,
goodness. So lots of people dream or think about making pivots, right? But when they get to the point of I guess stepping into it, they end up freezing. So what is one piece of advice that you'd give somebody who is on the fence right now?
Like, what do you have to lose? Like, it depends on if you're doing a pivot, if you're doing a change, there is a reason for that. Either you're unhappy, the place you work might not be awesome, maybe the people have changed, or like in my instance, it's been as soon as you go corporate and start acting corporate, the environment changes. Whereas in my environment right now, nothing has changed since I've been there for 6 years. Not anything. It's still the same of like, I get called bad words. I get made fun of. We play pranks on each other. We hate each other and we tell each other to fuck off all the time. And it's like the healthiest thing I can feel as a guy, like as in like, oh, it's like going, oh, who did this? That's really great. Like, right. You'll get that in a text message going like, who designed this? Are you 4 years old? Like that kind of stuff. And it's like, it's like male companionship it satisfies a whole bunch of like check boxes with me. So that's why I say it's like you, if you're gonna pivot, you must not be happy, and you gotta make sure that that's not gonna eat you up. It's not gonna, you know, get you scared to not do it, because you should see what you're capable of doing. That's the term courage, is just what you do under fear. So having fear is normal, but like if you're unhappy, you can kind of get rid of that. You can kind of push it aside and you can move on and maybe, make some sacrifices. But it's the only thing I've done is just sacrifice stuff to be happy, or whatever that is, whatever happiness is. And when I'm happy is when I'm doing it. That's it. Like I don't go, oh, like happiness to me doesn't exist. It's you're happy when you're doing it and you don't notice that you're happy. And then when you can reflect on it, that's another version of what we call happiness, is reflecting on it. But like me with earphones on, loud music, doing work, grinding away, probably the happiest I could be. So
That sounds like you're just in the flow, in the zone of doing whatever it is that you're doing, right? Yeah.
that's happiness. And like you're like, oh, there's days where you're like, what did I get done today? And you're like, oh, nothing. You spin your wheels sometimes because it's a difficult job. And then there's days that everything clicks and you're like, oh my God, this is awesome. But like, I always say is like, why is Wednesday a Monday today? Like,
Yeah. Oh man. I love this because I feel like you realized pretty early on in your journey that any kind of, like you said, corporateness, right, was not going to be a space for you. It stifled you, and so you took control of your situation every single time. And instead of staying miserable and stuck in a place that was making you, or you knew would make you feel like shit or whatever, you, like I said, took control and pivoted into something else, and it's just led you to exactly where you are now.
yeah, the rinse and repeat. You can get really good at rinse and repeat and like be very detail oriented, but then it just gets old. And I don't have a single same day anytime. I might get pulled off a job to do something else or whatever, and like the weirdest clients come to us and like, I've never designed this. That's the fun part, is like, I've never designed this before. I don't know. I have zero clue how to do this. But that's the fun part, is the unknown. If I don't have that unknown of like, I don't know what I'm working on, I don't know what I'm doing. Like a lot of times I say like, I have no clue what I'm doing. I really don't. But I have a bunch of skill sets that can help me figure it out, like how to get from A to B. But yeah, corporate stuff, like bureaucracy, like I'm dealing like these big defense contractors. I've never seen bureaucracy more than that. I had never seen it like that. It's so insane. It's insane. I don't know. I could never work. We have like a portal that goes upstairs on the roof to like some air conditioner, and like we have the word like HR on that door. Like, oh, you got to go see HR.
Oh
like,
my God.
so that's how we are. We have a giant pirate flag that we fly in that business. That's how we roll. Like I gave my boss that for a Christmas present. It's like, this is how we run this place. It's our pirate ship. We do whatever we want as long as we deliver what we said we were going to deliver to the client. But how we do it, that's up to us. So lots of 3 a.m. nights, late nights for us. But that pirate ship flag just flies full mast all the time. So
It truly sounds like you have found like the place for you, right? Where you can just be free and do whatever. I want to say just do whatever the fuck, right? Like, and
as long as we get the job done,
yeah.
and how we do it, and in between it, we got beer taps in the kitchen there that I brew the beer for. And it's like, you want to have a beer? You want to have 3 beers? As long as you get your work done, you can do it. So just no one tells us what to do. But we like some of our clients are, my clients are like the U.S. Marines. So I wonder what their job's like compared to mine, right?
A little more structured.
You know about U.S. Marines.
I might have had some experience there.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
So, what would you say has been like the absolute best part of taking all these leaps? And is there something that you treasure most about the path that you've taken?
I just like to I surprise myself every time that I'm like, oh, this could be a bad move, but you surprise yourself going like, I get into a funk and then I can pull myself out eventually. So these big, life is not peachy keen. It's not flat. It goes up and down, up and down, up and down, smiles and frowns. There's a lot of that. And they'll never end. That will never end. Those ups and downs, smiles and frowns. Like, do I know I'll last at this place? I don't know. I really don't know. But right now, I'm looking like this is the end, or start up my own kind of side business, kind of like you, side hustle, kind of that. I could take what I know from teaching design to making that an online course. I don't know. These are the things that are going through my head of like, do I want to make just side hustle money? Do I want to become a charlatan like I see on Twitter or X of design people of like, they've been designing for 1 year and now they're like a design expert. So I don't know, but I love what I'm doing right now. So, I would say like, I surprise myself the decisions that I make.
I love that. You literally answered my next question, right? Was if if you see another pivot in your future, or if you're feeling settled for yourself right now. It sounds like you feel pretty comfortable.
I have some ideas. I've lined them up already. Like I've lined them up in my head. So like this is what I did when I wasn't happy at my last place. Is I made this folder on my desktop called PL, and I called it PNL, Project New Life. And I would just fill it with stuff that would inspire me, and it would be like new LinkedIn like resumes, or just start rebuilding my resume and doing this and just keeping it there just in case it happened. But that was Project New Life. So now I have like, say, Google Tasks, and I have all these like ideas that I want to kind of look at for 2025. And just have that. So when I open my email, those tasks are always there, and they're looking at me. And I kind of like going, are these gravestone kind of things? Of like, well, they can be. And it could be like, I'm talking to one of my buddies starting to do furniture on the side. Thinking of just getting back in electronics, getting into like self-teaching, other things that I've always wanted to learn, or software. But the teaching online is another thing that I'm thinking, because I miss that. So, and again, there's millions and millions of courses out there now. I'm just going to be, one in the ocean, but it's something that I'm looking at where I can just push up a course and maybe get a sale every once in a while. Like, you've made internet dollars, haven't you?
One or two.
As soon as you get your first dollar on the internet, it changes your brain. Like, you're like, what? Someone paid $1 or whatever it is for me, and who am I? But someone finds value from your knowledge, go for it. And so it's everywhere. Like I still buy courses and actually complete them too. So
that's the big thing right there. You actually open them and do the work.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. And I've never heard of somebody saying that they had like this folder and the P&L Project New Life. I think that is golden, right? Because I think like you were saying, or what I kind of took away from it, is like the folder's always there. When you get to a point where you are just done and done, everything that you would need to do to get yourself prepared for a pivot is there. And it's not like you have to, freak out and try to figure out how to update the resume and this and that and whatever. It's already done. It's been there waiting for you. Now you just got to execute and look for whatever it is that you want to do pivot, right? So I think that's pretty cool.
And that Project New Life folder was never used. It just an AI screwed up, or my boss screwed up in LinkedIn, and somehow I got a job.
Have you looked at it have you looked at that folder, and I want to say kind of compared what you had in there versus what you're doing now? And is there parts that kind of, do you know what I mean? Like they line up?
No, like, yeah, I had a daily journal a couple of years ago, and all that came to fruition. Every single bit of it. Like writing down your gratitude journal and your plans, it all came about.
Love it.
So weird. It's weird, but and what I know about this is where you do not talk negatively about yourself. You can hypnotize yourself. So I learned a lot about persuasion when I got into teaching. So I needed to learn like human psychology, which is now still fascinating to me, is learning persuasion. And part of that was like self-hypnosis. And the more that you can hypnotize yourself to becoming better and doing stuff, it actually works. Like it absolutely works. Is you can self-hypnotize yourself. You can go one way as like, I'm not good. I'm not good. I'm not good. And you're not going to be good. But if you can just be like, I'm like, write it down. You can self-hypnotize. I will make this much money by the end of this year. All that stuff works. If no one does it for a long enough time to see it become like fruitful.
Right.
I've seen it. I've seen it over and over again of just this positive affirmation to yourself. It works.
I love that you say that because as we're having this conversation, I'm just thinking back to before I moved back to Ottawa and started working for Lester, I had my manifestation book where I had everything lined up for the kind of job I wanted, the hours I was going to work, the days I was going to work, the amount of money I was going to make.
Really?
Yeah. And I ended up at Lester's. The job wasn't the same, but the amount of days, the money, the everything.
And you met all these people there too that kind of, like, think of this. I'm still, when I just opened up LinkedIn, I was like, oh, you're looking for podcasts? Like, I'll chat on the weekend or whatever. Like, hell yeah. If you need podcasts, we all talk. Like, I might be interesting to some people. Like I do podcasts with other people. But how we know each other and how, again, is like these weird things. So it's like that little journal helped us meet for this conversation, which is really stupid and strange. And that's how that works. The AI, that's the matrix part of like when I would tell, like, I love that matrix, not red pill, blue pill, but like that. If you want to bend the spoon, you can bend it.
Yeah.
And kind of like going, it's there is no spoon. Just bend it. And the matrix or the simulation doesn't want you to be unhappy.
Right.
So it'll throw stuff at you. It doesn't want you to go, do bad stuff. It wants you to succeed. And that's the positive stuff that I think about is that simulation matrix wants you to be happy, and it doesn't want you to escape out of your little pot of pink goo. It wants you to just be happy and don't ruffle feathers. So as soon as I start to ruffle feathers, it goes, hey, would you like to try a new job? Here you go. Shut up. Try the new job. Be happy.
I love that. I have been somebody who, manifestation, writing things down. The amount of journals that I have is ridiculous. But I think, writing everything down and getting clear on what it is that you want and where it is that you want to go, or even maybe just being honest with the fact that where you are right now is not where you want to be. That's the catalyst for you moving into something that's even better, right? Just like opening you up to like, it is time for a change. And then yes, the matrix will deliver that new job, that new whatever the heck it is, that new experience that you need to have to get back to that happy place, right? Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Is there anything like, I know you said you don't have a portfolio website. Is there anything that normally I ask people if there is a way, if they wanted to follow you, get a hold of you, work with you, anything like that, like how would somebody be able to do that? Is that something?
The only social media that I have, like there's LinkedIn, but that's business and not really social media. But I use X to just talk about design. I probably have 3,700 followers on X as a car designer, and talk about design there. And I keep it professional, like don't rant on design, but no politics, no nothing. I try to keep away from social media and doom scrolling. It's not healthy. If I wanted that, I'd just be on Reddit all day long and seeing how like people are just falling apart. I own my website domain. I have bretthooper.com. It's more of just to own it. And I have some words parked there about who I am, but no, I don't show my work, but, all my work is at Studio 63, which is studio63.ca. That's where we get majority of our, work from. And then you can see the kind of stuff that I do work on, like, surfboards to butt plugs. That's really what what we work on.
Wow. Well, on that note,
Perfect.
oh my God. I love it. And
someone's got to do it, right?
Lord, And you said earlier, maybe I'm a little bit funny. My God, when people listen to this episode, they're gonna be like, "What the heck?" In all of
Yeah. Well,
hilarious.
there's my charm, right? There's you go. That's what. How'd you get your job? Just telling jokes. You just tell jokes and you get a job.
Love it, love it, love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. Honestly, I don't think I have smiled or giggled this much through an episode, but I think that is just status quo for literally any time that we talk to each other, whatever. I just think talking to you is awesome. There's always something to learn, lots of great energy. So thank you.
Well, and same back to you. It's always followed you, and I wish you had some business that I could follow, to be part of. But obviously, you can't cut my hair anymore.
Well, you still got your beard, there's still
That's
that.
true. That's true. You're still running that place?
I do 3 days a week in a salon suite downtown, just as I'm building out my coaching business, right? So that's kind of I'm doing it.
So I can still go see you to get my beard like done properly?
Really.
Oh, well, come on. I didn't know that. I thought you had shut that down and totally left it. Okay, well then I'm going to make an appointment with you then.
Okay, done. Cool.
There
Love
you
it.
go.
Love
There
it.
you
Love
go. We'll keep talking then.
it.